Someone messaged me recently asking how I have the A, motivation to make things, and 2, actually finish some of the projects that I start. And the answer is, I don't have any motivation to do anything at any time, but I force myself. Art is a hobby of mine, but it's also a coping mechanism for my type of brain. Damaged. The inside of my brain feels like if you had 12 different internet tabs open at the same time and they're all playing a video at max volume. And some of the videos are very mean. One of them is the hamster song. And that makes it hard for me to enjoy a lot of things. It's hard for me to sit down and watch a movie or focus on a book because I get lost. Like, I don't remember what's going on. But art projects occupy my mind and my hands at the same time. Sprinkle in some medieval tavern lo-fi, and we are properly stimulated to ward off the darkness. So when all I want to do is lay on the couch and sulk, I force myself to make something. And the resulting craft is like a tangible item that did not exist yesterday in time and space. But I made it, and I get to feel some sense of accomplishment over that. And my brain gets a little break from trying to ruin my life. And that was a very long-winded way of telling you that we're making stamps today. I've never made stamps before, but I sure would like to. I saw a random stamp making kit on Amazon and just envisioned some fun enrichment time for me in my enclosure, making stamps. So here we go. Let's begin our avoidance therapy.
Do you want to make some stamps?
Okay, step number 1 in the process is deciding what kind of stamps I want to make. What theme are we going for? The biggest positive on my mind right now is that spooky season is coming.
The Council of Spooky Bitches met this weekend.
Thank God. I have a fall-themed Pinterest board called The Only Time I Don't Have Seasonal Depression, and throughout the year I'll add things to it. I'll scroll through the photos periodically just to remind myself that everything is gonna be okay. Autumn is coming and you just gotta hang in there. So the theme of our stamp collection is Spooky Forest Friends. You may have some familiar faces on here. I'm just filling the page with small, witchy designs I would potentially like to have stamps of. We've got Wizard Toad and Cat, a cauldron, some potion bottles, of course various mushrooms. We've got a spooky little ghost wearing a party hat. It is his death day and he's hosting a little get-together later. I've been really into lunar moth since I painted that stool on my channel a few months ago. I feel like the wings could make a really cool stamp. Then speaking of wings, I made a flying skeleton key, which could also be cool, but it does have a lot of fine line details, so we probably need to assess our skill level with the carving before we actually attempt that. I drew a little stone cottage. Again, it's kind of got a lot going on. This is where our party ghost lives. Look, he's in the window there waiting for all his friends to arrive. Then I've gone a little too far at this point with the tiny line details. I made a hobbit door surrounded by stones and leaves, a little fairy house that's also a teapot. But here we go. This is our collage of options. Now, here is the stamp kit that I bought. It comes with 5 rubber blocks and a carving tool with interchangeable carving tips, which I thought was gonna be a lot more impressive than it actually turned out to be. There are 6 different metal tips that weren't actually all that different from each other. We will get into that later. The carving blocks are rubber. They look and feel like giant pencil erasers. I wasn't sure how easy it would be to draw on top of these, but it's super easy with just a regular pencil. You just can't erase very well, but I bet you could probably press a pencil drawing like from paper onto the surface and make a little imprint for yourself to sketch over. I didn't do that. I just redrew my designs onto the rubber. For this very first test block, I went with kind of like the more simpler designs, I thought. We've got a cauldron, a crescent moon, a creepy little pumpkin pilgrim that might look familiar, our party ghost, and a potion bottle. And once the designs are drawn, we can get into the actual carving of the stamps. I chose the smallest looking tip, though 3 or 4 of them did really not look all that different. I really wish this set came with more of a super fine tip for carving those small details. Not having that really did affect the type of designs I was able to accomplish. I also was not totally sure how much pressure I needed to apply here, like how deep of cuts I needed to make. I tried to stay relatively on the surface, keeping more of a light hand. If you apply too much pressure, it gets more difficult to remove the carved rubber pieces. I was just kind of yanking them out at some point. points. I also tried to switch over to one of the larger carving tips to remove some of that negative space around the stamps, and that didn't really go over all that well. It didn't feel sharp enough. I couldn't glide easily across the surface. I just kept kind of getting stuck. So I switched back to that smallest tip and I used that for the remainder of the time. Once I had finished the carving, I was starting to feel real skeptical at this point that these were not going to look like much of anything at all. I felt like I butchered some of the lines, but we're gonna try it out anyway. I just cut out each design and trim the edges a bit. I have seen some stamp pressing videos where people use more of a liquid ink that they roll onto the stamp with a paint roller. I really wanted to do that, but I'm trying to hold off on buying new art supplies every time I make a video. I'm prioritizing using things that I already have. So I just went with a regular old ink pad and it worked fine. It got the point across. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how these turned out. They do look kind of rough. They most definitely look homemade. They're kind of wonky, but I think that adds to their charm. I kind of like the look of that. This at least gave me enough confidence to make more. So I'm gonna draw out some other designs on our remaining rubber pads. I chose more of the simpler designs, nothing with super fine detail. So sorry, Haunted Cottage, because I already know I can't accomplish that. So going for more simple shapes with bold lines. Keep in mind, if you're trying this yourself, remember that the part you are carving out is the negative space, the part where no ink will touch. Whatever you leave behind is the raised part of the stamp that's going to make contact with the ink pad. For me, it was also helpful to make the lines of the drawing thicker than I normally would. It just made it easier to carve around them later. I also chose designs that were relatively symmetrical because whatever you draw will be flipped once you stamp it. Like any words, for instance, would need to be drawn backwards so that the mirror image of the word is forward when you flip it upside down. Yeah, okay, right. I'm gonna finish carving out the rest of the designs and then we will assess the damage. Alright, we got quite a few stamps out of that set. Now, are they any good is another matter entirely. I will say this is probably the fastest project I've made on this channel. If I wasn't filming the process, it could have easily been a one afternoon/evening activity. This could be a fun project if you're into stationery or journaling, mailing letters. You could carve your own logo or mailing address or something to spice up your envelopes. I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna use these for. I was more so making them just for the sake of making them, but as I played around with the stamps, I thought it could be fun to get some fabric ink and stamp some of these onto napkins or like a t-shirt pocket or something. Use them to customize some of my clothes. I really like how they all look together in this uneven print. I can see myself recreating this onto like some plain brown wrapping paper, making my own custom spooky pattern. There are possibilities here. In the moment, I thought this looked like one giant coloring book page, and I had the immediate urge to color it all in. I definitely liked the pattern better when it was just black and white, but hey, I guess that's the beauty of stamps. You can just make it all over again. My favorites are this mushroom. I think that one turned out really cute. The party ghost, of course. He's very cute to me. Wizard toad gets an honorable mention. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!